gun, the captain of the ship, yeah. And it's like a load, so it's time to flip the script, yeah. Cruising through the bay on that fucking whale, battleship sold up, screaming out, Buck, what you heard? So Buck, what you heard? So Buck, what you heard?
All right, welcome back to Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I will follow you back. We're getting closer to the draft. It's so crazy. It's hard to believe we were just playing the Super Bowl and you're just watching the Super Bowl, and here we are. We're getting closer and closer to the draft. I've got some great guys, great football minds on to discuss this tonight. I'm going to start with my co-host KB, Ken Barrett. How you doing tonight, my friend?
Oh, fantastic.
Man, this is some great football knowledge here. And my special guest tonight, of course, you recognize him from Real Bucs Talk, and Michael Pless. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, Gene. It's great being back on with you guys, and I'm looking forward to this draft and looking forward after the draft being over so I can get some rest. Not much sleep going on right now, but it's well worth it. It's fun. So excited to talk about it.
Yeah, and tonight's show is brought to you by Bucs Report, and I do want to give a shout out to Smack Apparel. My guys over at Smack Apparel are killing it. I don't know if you guys have gotten to see the new John Lynch Hall of Fame T-shirt yet.
No,
that is fire, man. And I cannot wait. I can't wait to wear mine. As soon as I get it, I'll wear it. You guys can see it. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I do want to jump right in here because there have been some just crazy moves going on in the NFL. And I think this is going to set the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is just me personally. This is going to set the Buccaneers up to be able to get the best player available on the board. I mean, there could be need, if I guess you could say that. But to be honest, there's not a glaring need that the Buccaneers have. But I do want to discuss, hey, this is what could potentially happen. So I'm going to start with you, Michael, because I know you've put out some really great videos regarding the draft. Mm-hmm. And is there somebody in particular that you see that could potentially drop to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that would be able to be a day one starter, or not starter, but compete to come in and really help this team?
I mean, it's you always find guys that are going to fall regardless, whether it's injury history or, size, or, maybe they're not as fast as you expected them to be. So there's always question marks that, drop, certain players, whether they're, all, athleticism, or they're just, production, but the athleticism doesn't match up. So a lot of that, plays a part into it. Certain guys that I think could be there. I mean, you look at, Christian Barmore, you look at Jason Oweh. Those are guys we just, recently did. And, higher talents, you look at Jalen Phillips, that'd be an ideal situation for the Bucs. A guy that has that kind of talent, he falls to 32, you pick him up. There's a couple other guys. I mean, not a lot of people are talking about Joe Tryon, Ronnie Perkins, Joseph Osai. So any of the edge rushers I see, that's really the main position I could see that could come in and play right away. I just don't feel running back is going to be picked in the first round. I don't see that happening. You go around the league and you listen to people and they talk about this class. I think running backs is a position that will fall out of the the first round. I just don't see a team really reaching for that position this year. I mean,
I have to ask you, when we're, because a lot of the players you mentioned are defensive players,
right?
Is there anybody that you see that really is that good fit for a Todd Bowles defense?
Yeah, I mean, the guys I mentioned, I think all fit. And then you look at, potentially other positions. You look at linebacker, you look at Zaven Collins, who
I love
hint, he might be next. So he's on the way as far as a breakdown goes. You look at Jamin, I think it's Jamin. Yeah, Jamin Davis from Kentucky. He's another linebacker that would fit. Cam McGrone from Michigan is another one that would be maybe a day two prospect, but he's a good fit.
And these are guys that have speed and they have a nose for the ball, and that's kind of what you want those ball hawk kind of players. And the one thing I can say about Jason Light, Jason Light has really done well, especially with the linebacker position. And, I thought that, since he's been there, it's been a lot of quality players he's been able to bring in.
Yeah,
Real
no
quick
doubt.
question. Lane Johnson was asking, he said, every time I watch the film on Javonte Williams, the other running back looks more explosive with better hands. And he also had more rushing yards. Michael Carter is his name.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah.
getting a lot of round 2 love. I mean, I don't think anyone's forgotten about Michael Carter. He's just not seen as that bell cow that the other 3 are projected to be.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
that goes into what I was talking about earlier as far as like size and like maybe lack of speed, maybe not as explosive as they thought. So all that plays a factor why certain guys fall. Again, it's another reason why you don't really have to rush the running back position. Guys are going to be available. So
Gio Bernard got cut today.
Right. Yeah. There's going to be more of those coming up.
Oh, absolutely. I think June is going to surprise a lot of people. I think after June, when they have the second wave of cuts, you're going to see some players that you weren't expecting to get cut that will be available. And I think that would love to come to Tampa and possibly chase a ring. So, kind of getting back to the draft. I mean, for you, when you look at this team top to bottom, I know personally, I love the trenches. I have been a trench guy. I think we've talked about this, in years past, how the Bucs have just not consistently addressed the trenches. And that's something we need to see a whole lot more of. And I think that, based on what they were able to accomplish last year, the way the salary cap is going to be, I could see them addressing the trenches in the draft again this year. Is that a realistic expectation or a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I think it's, you look at the defensive line and you look at the edge prospects. I think a lot of those players are going to go early because of the demand. I think it's, so you find yourself in a situation where you might want to pick from those positions, with premium picks and maybe not wait on it per se, especially from the edge group. I think the edge group is going to get plucked pretty quickly. Defensive tackle, you might be able to wait on and maybe find a guy that, really fits your scheme and value. That's where I think you can find guys in day 3, wait for those type of guys where, they hold up blockers. You look at like the Tyler Shelvins, the Bobby Browns, trying to think of it. There's other ones, Tonga from BYU. So there's a couple different guys that would, really benefit what you're doing scheme wise. But edge rushers, those guys are going to be premium because everyone's trying to get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a higher priority for sure.
All right, KB, I want to get you in here, man. Sorry about that. I don't want to crowd everything. So
I don't know if you.
I want to. I've been watching I've been watching you very remotely on Twitter because I got my PS5. So I've just been like, I don't want to get on social media. I want to play a couple more rounds of Madden or, I want to get on Grand Theft Auto or something like that. So I'm just now getting back into the social media thing, and so, but I have been watching you. I just want you to know that. So what are your thoughts, man? I mean, at 32, do you trade back or do you get the best player available? What would you do?
Yeah, man. I don't know if you noticed, Gene, but I actually wrote an article for Bucs Report last week, and it was a mock draft. And in that mock draft, as Plus is pointing out, to me, there's about 6 edges I would consider at that 32 position. Because when I look at the roster, you can look at, inside defensive tackle, we can get different players who are familiar with our system. Steve McClendon, he's a guy who comes to the top of my head. If they just weren't comfortable drafting a big body in like the 4th, 5th, 6th round, that's a guy that you could just bring back for 1 year and then maybe just, attack the trenches next year or whatever the case may be. I think in terms of value, you can, if the right one falls to you, because it all comes down to your board. In that mock draft that I did, one player that I haven't really thought of until recently, who I think would be available and could actually, I called this the replacement edition, because in this mock draft, number 32, who did I think could compare to like a JPP? I chose Greg Rousseau. And he's not the most natural outside linebacker in terms of a 3-4 scheme that you could, draw up on paper. Like Joe Tryon fits that, Shaq Barrett body type a little bit more. But when I think about this roster, when next season comes around, when you look at that laundry list of free agents that are going to be on the Bucs roster, to me, you're going to have to pick and choose a couple positions there. Are you going to pay Chris Godwin? Are you going to pay Carlton Davis? Are you going to pay JPP, Sue another year? Like all those, especially those 1-year guys, it's, can you save that 10 million? And when I looked kind of with JPP, he comes back from this, horrible car accident, obviously had the fireworks accident. Last year, he basically didn't practice at all. He had some knee procedure in this offseason. He barely practiced ever. So when I looked at the position, I was like, someone that no one's really talking about is Greg Rousseau. He came in Miami 2019, put on some fantastic tape. However, he only played 2019. 2018, he played 2 games, injured for the whole year. 2020 sat out because he's like, I'm going to be a first-round pick. But, there's so many body types. There's Kwity Paye. There's, we talk about Joe Tryon. What am I trying to say? Jason Oweh's getting all the love right now from Penn State. Athletic freak. Joseph Asai from Texas. You also have Azeez Ojulari, who's probably my number 1 guy if I heard to say right now, but I think he's not going to be there. He's playing in a big, big school with a lot of eyes on him. I think some teams can take that chance on him. But Greg Rousseau, he's got the physical traits, and Jason Light came out recently and said, hey, we can look 2 years down the road with these guys. And I think that's a guy who can play a 3-man rotation or 4-man if you want to throw Anthony Nelson in there at the edge position. And then one interesting thing that I came across, and I did in my mock, I traded up in the second round. I traded my 4th round pick to move up to pick 45 with the Jaguars, who would be a great team to, want to move back. And I got inside defensive lineman Levi Ruzarike. I mean, I think he profiles as someone who, in a year or two could build a little bit more size, become a little bit more stout like Sue, but offers a little bit pass rush potential that Sue doesn't really offer at this stage of his career. So I think moving up in the second round, I never really thought about that until I did this mock draft, where moving up in the second round and losing that 4th round pick, kind of like what we did last year, actually could benefit this team as opposed to even moving up in round 1 or even moving back in round 1.
Yeah. And thinking about that, I mean, the Bucs have 8 picks so far right now. That
2 sevens. Yeah.
7th. There you go. Yeah. I could definitely see that happening, with, that's a great thought. I hadn't thought about it either. Moving up like that. Plus, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that as a possibility. I like Greg Rousseau. He's definitely very raw as far as rushing from the outside. He can do a lot of different things if you move him inside. So I see where the JPP comparison comes from. I mean, he's got tremendous length. Not many are built like what he's built like. So he's got those long arms. He can definitely develop a longer arm move. I think that's one of his better pass rush arsenals. He's just got to figure out a better plan and a better secondary move to get disengaged from blocks. But as far as sideline to sideline defender, he's really good. Run defense, solid. He can make a lot of plays chasing down guys. So doesn't look fast, but he's so long as far as his legs. I mean, he's like a glide, he's like a Giselle out there as far as gliding around on the field. It can make up a lot of space. So he would be a fun prospect. And he's a guy I definitely could see that, drops, because of, it's been a year since he last played. Also, I forget how well he tested. I know he ran pretty decently, but not super athletic, as far, compared
not Oweh or anything.
Right.
See, Oweh's getting all and it's so hard to figure out what edge, if that's the position, let's say we're going to target in this scenario, who's actually going to fall, because we know these teams fall in love with guys and they might love certain traits or characteristics or size. Like someone might love Greg Rousseau, and Jason Light, honestly, might not like Greg Rousseau. I'm going to be honest with that. I don't know that. But when I was looking at, who's someone who can replace JPP, who's someone who could replace Sue, who are in that, maybe have 1 or 2 years left in the tank of, good to high level play. Those are guys who I thought would be there at those positions, because projecting the draft, I mean, we've already seen these trade ups. Heck, even Atlanta might trade back at this point.
Yeah.
You don't know who's going to trade up. Like, there's so much that can happen.
Yeah, and when you look at the Atlanta team right now, they're rebuilding. I know they've not come out and said we're rebuilding, but they pretty much are.
Ooh, I have something for you, Gene. Yeah. Now, bear with me with the Falcons. I don't want them to do this. Let's say at number 4 they took Kyle Pitts. Then let's say at number 36 they take Javonte Williams, who profiles very similarly to Derrick Henry. And then you spend the next 2 years of draft, like every other round this year and next year's draft class, straight up on defensive players. That's actually not a pretty bad roster there. And with Matt Ryan a little bit longer in the tooth, I mean, that's a competitive roster, at least in my eyes, depending on how well they draft outside of, let's say, those 2 picks. But I think Javonte Williams is the clear number 3 running back. Usually, 4 picks into the second round. I don't think 1 or 2 running backs really come off the board by then. I think the big 2, one of them's going to make round 1, and then it's the Bucs. Are they going to do it? And then who's going to fall to that 4th pick? And Carolina's now got Sam Darnold, which if he turns out anything like Ryan Tannehill, that's not exactly good news for Bucs fans. So
yeah, I'm still not 100% sure what you have with Sam Darnold. So I think this is going to be kind of a wait and see. I mean, when you look at what he had around him, I get where the optimism is, but ultimately you just don't know what you have. I like Joe Brady. I like what Matt Rule. I like what they're doing in Carolina, but I don't know. I have questions about bringing in a Sam Darnold with what they gave up to get him. So it's going to be really interesting to see, how all that works out. I did have a question. Is offensive line off the table? I want to go back to Quinn Meinerz as a possibility. If I don't think he's going to be available personally, I really don't, because when you look at the quality of offensive linemen in this draft, I don't see him making it to 32. I really don't. I think that I know that there are teams out there that are desperate to get quality offensive linemen. I mean, you could look at what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done with the consistency that they have at offensive line. Is it possible, though, that there's somebody out there that Tampa could be looking at, within the first or second round on that offensive side of the offensive lineman side of the ball?
Yeah, I love Landon Dickerson. I think that guy would be a home run pick either at 32 or maybe risk and hope he falls to 64. Probably not going to happen, but
No.
I would bang on the table for Landon Dickerson for, whether 32 or you trade down a little bit and still pick him up.
I think he's a Chief. I think he fits everything that the Chiefs want to do right now. If they don't take Landon Dickerson and they, let's say, choose a skill player, I think that's a huge mistake comparing where their offensive line is now and kind of who they've brought in to kind of fill in those gaps. I mean, Kyle Long, he could even play some right tackle if they want to use Dickerson as a guard, but they were going after Hudson for center, so they still have the center position open.
Yeah.
Well, I think they picked up Joe Tooney. So I mean,
Joe Tooney's a guard. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's going to be their left guard. Yeah. So they would probably definitely need a center. Did they add Rodney Hudson, or did Hudson?
No, he got traded to the Cardinals.
That's right.
Third round pick.
Okay. I had the C's mixed up, but
red and C.
Yeah. But no, I agree with you. I think that could be a pick for the Chiefs. I think they definitely want to upgrade the tackle position.
Absolutely.
But what tackle's going to be left there, man?
Yeah. I mean, you don't know. But yeah, offensive line definitely in the first 2 rounds, I think, is definitely a possibility. Quinn Meinerz, I think, definitely a prospect that fits Jason Light's, profile as far as, Division III school guys. Guy that
can he play center?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, I believe.
I know he can play guard. If he can play all 5, he might even go first round. I mean, just because his athletic profile is so. He tested, I think it was 9.98 out of 10 on
center,
that.
Center guard is what
he's listed at. Okay.
Yeah. So it would be so nice to get. This is what I'm saying. The Bucs have never had this luxury to get best player on the board, and it could be anybody. It could be a linebacker. It could be a inside defensive tackle.
Yeah.
It could be anybody. Edge rusher.
They could go crazy and they could go Rondell Moore and just say, you know what?
Fuck AB if you got Rondell Moore.
You could just go Rondell Moore and you could say good luck to everyone, and we're going to score 50 points on you.
Hey, he can come out of the backfield too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is definitely a possibility. You just don't know what's going to happen here. I mean, this is like the biggest wild card draft I've ever seen. Last year, you knew the Buccaneers needed an offensive lineman. That was without question. That was like the biggest need they had, and they knocked it out of the park with that first pick. I really believe that with Jason Light working with Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, and even Tom Brady, everybody working together collectively. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens in this draft. I don't have a clear cut, other than I will say this: I just, in my mind, cannot rationalize taking a running back in the first round. I can't rationalize it. I've tried to make it work in my head, and it doesn't come out right.
Did you see the latest Loose Cannons podcast with oh my goodness, Jake Arians?
Jake Arians.
Jake Arians. Okay, well, Jake was on there, and he was all aboard the Najee Harris train. And I guess he's taken that, mindset of, what can best impact our roster this year, screw 2 or 3 years from now. And even if, let's say, I'm just playing the hypothetical game. Let's say Najee Harris is is selected number 32. Do you think he's even playing the first 8 weeks? Because I think with BA's philosophy, I think you're going to still feed Rojo the majority of the first and second down carries, and then Leonard's going to spell and then be the third down back. So, Najee might be an answer, but there's probably going to be, to me, in my mind, there's probably going to be another Najee next year. There's always a running back from somewhere who can do something. And if they want to spend a first round pick next year, I think like next year, if you want to go quarterback or running back, I think that's the year to really do that. This year, I think you got to really look at the roster and say, who can we keep next year, like long term, and who can we save that dollars here and there?
And who could actually come in and compete for that starting position? Because that's kind of what you're looking at too. I understand with you bringing back Ndamukong Suh. You may want to look at a replacement for Ndamukong Suh possibly, or JPP. There are just so many different things that you can look at. Father Time is undefeated, so it's possible.
Except for Tom Brady.
Yeah, you could even see a quarterback. Speaking of, you could realistically see a quarterback possibly, just depending on how everything falls. But just the way the way this offseason is flowed, where people are like jockeying for position, we know what the 49ers want to do. It's 100% evident.
If it's Mac Jones, I'm never coming back on this podcast again. LOL joke. But if they seriously traded 2 extra first round picks for Mac Jones, if I'm a 49ers fan, I don't know what to do. I think Justin Fields has to be the pick there. Yeah. And if it's not, and it's somehow Mac Jones, I can't trust Kyle Shanahan ever again.
Yeah.
And
what do you do with Garoppolo then? At this point.
He's gone. He's going to stay this year probably, but he's going to be gone.
Is he going to have that? Is he going to have that Alex Smith kind of role, like Alex Smith did for Patrick Mahomes, rolling into that next year?
But is Jimmy G that guy though? Like Alex Smith was like that guy. Like that's the thing. People want Tom Brady to mentor guy. Tom Brady's not a mentor. You can follow him around, sure. What's his face? The guy from the Cardinals that we got first round pick last year, who was his cup of tea.
Josh Rosen. Yeah.
Rosen got his cup of tea and followed Brady around with a notebook. Anyone can do do that, but Brady's not going to sit there. Hey, you need to do this because I want you to replace me next year. No, that's not Brady.
Yeah, that's why Garoppolo's in San Francisco.
Yep.
Yeah, I see him getting cut. I don't think they're going to keep that contract. I think they actually save money if they release him. So, I think they go that route.
It won't be a cap hit against them, will it? If they go ahead and make that move,
I don't think it'll be very
lively at.
Yeah,
I'm finding it. Y'all keep talking. I'm finding it.
Okay.
So, that was one of my questions. I mean, how is that all going to work out? I mean, why would you even snatch him off of the practice squad? I guess a lot of it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Was that a depth move or
You talking about Josh Rosen?
yeah, Josh
Well,
Rosen?
he could have played last year for the 49ers. They had so many injuries at the quarterback position.
Rosen
so, I mean, I think it was just one of those.
Yeah, Rosen was signed off to actually go to the roster for the 49ers, and they thought maybe he has a chance to play, but yeah, I mean, Rosen was just seeing what was possible. So
Yeah,
cap savings on Jimmy G, dead cap of 2.8 million, cap hit at 26, so they could save 24.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think.
He's gone. I think he's cut. I don't even think he's traded at this point. He's gonna sign it for New England for like 7, 8, 10 mil, whatever the standard backup going rate is, and just compete with Cam Newton. Yeah. That's where he is right now.
And we're talking about the NFL, and we were talking earlier about Sam Darnold. Another name that's out there is Teddy Bridgewater, and we know that Teddy Bridgewater is not long for Carolina. Is it possible that he ends up back in New Orleans? Is that
much money? Unless he's cut, but I don't think I'm looking it up now, but Teddy, I don't think can get cut really without a big cap penalty.
Yeah. Panthers really put themselves in a bind. I didn't understand the move going after Darnold at all, and they really gave up way too much, in my opinion.
There's no way I would.
Well, the saving grace is it's next year's picks as opposed to this year, and Teddy's a dead cap hit of 20 million with a salary of 22 for cap hit, so it's only a 2 million cap savings for cutting Teddy, and I don't think anyone's going to trade for 20 million.
No. He is that means that there's competition in the in camp to see who your starting quarterback is. And I think, best player available is who you want out on the field. I'm not a huge Sam Darnold fan. I know a lot of people have talked about the level of talent around him. His offensive line was suspect, and just the play calling was suspect as well. But I don't know. There's just something about him. I could be wrong. I mean, we saw that with Alex Smith, where Alex Smith was just atrocious up until Harbaugh got there, and then boom, he just takes off and he does well in Kansas City, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I think Sam is just he's a Jag, which is just a guy. I really think that's his level of play right now. I mean, really hasn't shown much. Yeah, you could say, okay, bad environment in New York, but coming to Carolina, is Joe Brady going to fix all the bad habits that he has as a quarterback? Probably not. So really, I don't see it. I probably would have stayed at 8. Maybe you get a quarterback that falls out of the top, a couple of guys, draft one of those guys, and have much better upside going forward. But maybe they like someone else. As far as adding maybe offensive line, it looks like that could be potential availability with Rashawn Slater, or maybe they get lucky and get Penei Sewell.
Please don't.
Was that so? Do you think the whole Sam Darnold bringing him to Carolina, was that a desperation move, or you think that?
I think it was he was like their 4th or 5th option at that point, and it was like, okay, 3 quarterbacks are going at 1, 2, 3. Atlanta might be trading back. They're sure is not going to trade with us, the Carolina Panthers. So maybe there's a 4th that goes before us. Do we want QB5, or do we want to just throw a 2023 second at Sam Darnold and see if it sticks? To me, the interesting part is they picked up the 5th-year option, so that's a $20 million 2022 or something like that next year.
That's one hell of a reach. I mean, there's a lot more that you could have done in the off season rather than make this move. I mean, I don't know.
They tried to get Matt Stafford. It didn't work out.
I wish they would have gotten Matt Stafford, to be quite honest. I mean, behind us, kind of suspect offensive line, they wouldn't have had number 8. I think Stafford, he's I think we're going to see a lot of good things in LA, but I don't think Stafford is who he was 4 or 5 years ago.
Not at all.
And I think the Rams are going to suffer for that, because when you have such high level talent, at the top, but then you don't have those mid to lower tier players who can contribute and, be special, especially when you lose a guy like Brandon Staley, who is, McVay on the defense, who's basically just creative. And Raheem Morris, for everything that he is, creative isn't really it. So that's where I think, And I think Joe Brady, I think he's the winner in this. If he gets Darnold to just be a little bit better than what he showed, I think, I tweeted about this earlier. I think too many white young offensive coordinators are getting too many, head coaching positions they don't deserve. But the league's going to perceive him, if he can turn around Sam Darnold to be a decent quarterback, that Adam Gase must have been this piece of shit, and Joe Brady must be the guy. Because we've seen it. Cliff Kingsbury's he should be on the hot seat. What's his face in Cincinnati?
Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor should not be on. He should be on a hot seat right now, or he should have been outright fired. The fact that Eric Bieniemy and Todd Bowles
killed Joe Burrow
and that's also front office too. And to me, when we talk about these young quarterbacks, I like, for example, everyone wants to make the comparison with Zach Wilson. Is that his name? Zach Wilson. Yeah, Zach Wilson to Patrick Mahomes. He might be Patrick Mahomes. Let's say hypothetically he ain't going to be Patrick Mahomes week 1. He might be year 2. Like, I think Trevor Lawrence is the clear cut.
And I think what gets missed in all this is Patrick Mahomes was able to sit.
Yep, that was my point, Gene.
Hold a clipboard, and there was no pressure on him. His rookie season, you didn't even hear Patrick Mahomes' name mentioned.
He actually played bad his week 17 game.
Yeah,
he played that year against the Lions.
Yeah, he did not look good at all, and and people don't remember that. But this is my point here. I think it's beneficial for some of these quarterbacks to be able to sit and hold that clipboard. But at the end of the day, then I think some quarterbacks get damaged by throwing them into the fire. I don't think they ever recover from it. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see which one he is.
Well, not only that, I think Trevor Lawrence is the only guy who's probably ready to start week 1. All these other guys, you can see the projection in them, but also they're not Andrew Luck. They're not these players that they're being touted to be. That's why I hate player comps. Because if I compare any offensive lineman to even let's say the best offensive guard in this draft is Ali Marpet. That's his comp.
Okay.
He's still a second-round pick, and people would overblow that, and they might either say, "Oh, Ali Marpet was a second-round pick. This guy shouldn't be a first-round pick," or that's why I hate these player comps.
Yeah,
take the player for what they are. Judge him each year differently.
Exactly. Oh yeah, this is another Dalvin Cook. This guy is a Dalvin Cook. No, this guy is who he is. Dalvin Cook is who he is, and I think you do a disservice to a lot of these players by doing that.
Yeah, no doubt. When you look at the prospects and you look at who's available, you gotta see, like Ken said, you gotta see what they are now, but you also have to see what they could be in 3 years from now.
To me, that's more important than the player comp. Where do you see them being in 2 years? Not because of a player that you've seen on tape before, but because of what because they're the ones in these meetings with these kids. They know who has the work ethic. They know who is in the film room and, doing those extra work, both on and off the field. Like that, to me, that's more, and that's what I love about Light, because he's finding guys where that's the most important thing to them.
And ironically, this is the most important part here: talent evaluation. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers struggled for over a decade when it came to talent evaluation. It wasn't until recently that we've seen the general manager working with the coach, working with the offensive and defensive coordinator, to where they were able to come in and collectively make sound picks in the draft. The Bucs have struggled with that for years. And now it makes you appreciate when you're watching some of these other teams out there in their front offices and how they're doing things, because talent evaluation is key and not everybody has it.
Oh, for sure. And, I love the movie Moneyball. And when they're, when scouts are talking with Brad Pitt, yeah.
when he throws it, Scott Hatterberg.
Yeah.
Kicking machine.
Yeah. And it's just funny, watching hearing the scouts are like, what are we doing? And who is this guy? And it's just, I can see NFL teams kind of going through that process, but it's very important, how they communicate with each other, knowing exactly who they want. And then also reporting that back to, the coaching staff and making sure everyone's on the same page. So really, I think the process, like you said, Gene, has become a lot better. It's understanding exactly the type of player that you want, not only, right now, but what is he going to become, like I said, 3 to 5 years down the line. And that's, how they build their board. That's how Jason Light builds his draft board, which is very good. And I think that's the right way to do it.
And plus, we've talked about this in years past. Do they have it from the neck up?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got players that pass the eye test. They have all the physical tools to be amazing in the NFL, but they don't succeed. And it's because of this right here.
Yeah. And I think the combine's about to be outdated too. We've seen the technology with the miles per hour being tracked for players on film. Like these teams have now access to things where they don't have to worry about what they look like in shorts. It's what you can do with pads, because we find, the Oakland Raiders did this for years, just drafting players who are just, the fastest or the strongest or the this or the that, but that doesn't generally translate. You have to find the best football players you can. And if they're, our we don't have the fastest cornerback room in the NFL, and by a long shot. Carlton Davis is not fast. Jamel Dean has some speed, yes, but he's more long speed than he is quick. Sean Murphy-Bunting, not fast, but quick. But when you put him in a physical role and play to their strengths, that's when you see these aspects of a player come out. And I think a lot of teams, they even, let's say, take best player available, but it doesn't. And that's what you have to find, that balance between the scheme and the player, because you don't want to put a square peg in a round hole, but you also want to have a player that fits your philosophies and what you do. And so when we're talking about that Moneyball scene, I mean, when you have the, the scout, or Brad Pitt throwing those names out there to replace, you're going to put him to replace Johnny Damon, like Jason Giambi. But I mean, when you think about it, in the NFL, it's a numbers game, just as it is kind of with baseball. And those scouts in that scene are talking about, the swing, the pop on the bat, that sound that it makes it so pure. Well, in football, it's kind of like that with pads too. Like there's some similarities you can throw in there. Like, this person can track down a ball real well. This person can run a 40-yard dash real well. Like, you can find those similarities, and, all these advanced analytics are great, but, their technology is showing that the combine may not be the most important thing. It might be the most important thing back for when it began is for the physical. That's the most important thing at the combine.
But I was always under the impression that player personnel had their guy scouted out prior to the combine. The combine was more of a dog and pony show than anything. And that was always the way I understood it. I want to give a shout out to John Spytek, the guy, talent, player personnel. I love that guy. I love what he does. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does.
Shout out Mike Beal. Mike Beal, actually, his daughter went to the school that I taught at. Great guy.
Yeah. So, again, these guys, these unsung heroes that we don't really get to talk a lot about. To me, just what they've done, I mean, since Jason Light's been here, has really changed the situation around. I know that players, there were players in that 2016 draft that could have been good, but again, if you don't have it here, there's nothing you can do. You may have all the physical tools in the world, but at the end of the day, if you don't have it here and you don't have that love for the game, it's not doing you any good.
Yeah. Judge Light on his draft picks with BA, not his draft picks with Cutter or Lovey. That's all I would say on this.
100%.
Yeah. And like you guys were saying, a perfect example of what we're talking about is Antoine Winfield. I mean, that is the ace in the hole right there. I mean, he's only maybe 5'9" at best, a little over 200 pounds. But he wins with his intelligence. Like he's just super smart. He's very instinctive. He's always in the right spot. He knows what's happening before the play happens. So that's what gives him the edge. And you can, and that's what you can see on tape. Like you see it on tape. And that's why tape it never lies. It shows you exactly who that player you're getting. Yep. What the combine is for is really introducing yourself to the players and what they are, and getting a better understanding.
I guess the interview, and I need to probably
medicals too.
Yeah, I had to kind of back up a little bit, because I think the interview itself plays a big factor in a lot of this as well. Wouldn't you guys say? I mean, it's not. I'm not worried about his 40. I'm not worried about a offensive lineman's 40 time. I'm not worried about quarterback's 40 time. I mean, the name he that shall not be mentioned, Jameis Winston, running the time that he ran, but how many times did he make plays with his legs?
Exactly. And you see that across the league too. Like Matt Ryan runs for first downs. He runs almost as slow as Tom Brady does. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think with the combine, what I've never understood about the combine is why these players are training for these quick twitch movements, like, the 40-yard dash, these, heavy benching sessions where, you could tear like pull
Yeah.
muscles, tear muscles that are non-football related movements. And then they're doing that for 4 to 6 months. And then they have to get back to football. So I think we're going to see, I mean, the combine, as you said, Gene, is a dog and pony show. But I want to see in 5-10 years if honestly it goes away.
I mean, with what you see from next gen, and there are so many there's so much technology out there that you're not having to risk a player getting injured, to the capacity that you would be, running a 40, bench press, jumping, all this other stuff that they're having them do. I think this would help people focus on the interview process or getting to know a player, a team getting to know a player and knowing if that's the guy that you want on your team, if he's really going to fit, if he's that fit for this team.
Yeah. And I would say, like Ken was saying with the combine, I think the pro days offer a lot more value. It's just, it's one workout. And plus, I think eventually they're going to get back to like the private workouts where they bring players into their facilities. And I think that is most ideal. That's what, the teams really want to see. They're like, hey, we're going to work you out, see how you fit in our scheme. We're going to give you a playbook, do all those different type of things. That I think that is really beneficial. Obviously, they're probably missing that right now. I think they would like that. But, with the virtual experience, you're able to get, meetings done every day, with these players, which is helpful.
Even more than what you could do.
Right. Because you don't have to worry about like, flying them in, or you have to go somewhere to meet up, or so it definitely adds its benefits. And I think definitely the combine, again, it's all TV. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about the TV. Yeah, definitely.
And I guess that's what's kind of frustrating to me, because I hear so many people talking about, oh man, I got to watch the combine. The combine, these guys, they already know who they want to talk to. They know who they want to look at. Yeah. And I think the interview and the medical, I think that's the icing on the cake more than anything.
It's also, teams, that's where teams get together and they have a lot of meetings. And it's a lot of meetings for like free agency. It's a lot of meetings for trades. We heard the story about Jason Light making the trade for JPP at the combine. So a lot of that stuff takes place, and really, so that's what it is. It's basically a hangout for the weekend with all the teams in the league. And you watch them, run some drills and stuff, but really it's just, you're gathering information. That's pretty much it.
I have to ask, has there been a better third round pick than JPP? I mean, just using
Chris Godwin.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding, Gene. No, but I mean, that's the thing, though. And I mean, we saw the Cardinals trade a second-round pick for Chandler Jones.
Yeah.
There's so many trades across the league, and I'm surprised that the NFL hasn't adopted a little bit more of an NBA mindset. And we've seen a couple trades for money, like cash considerations and all that with quarterbacks. I wouldn't be shocked in the next, trade or negotiation or two if you're able to see trade exceptions where, like, maybe, like, for example, Teddy Bridgewater could get traded without the Panthers maybe eating some of the dead money, and the other team doesn't have to take all of it. Like we saw that with Carson Wentz, with Indy. Like Philadelphia is paying pretty much this entire year's salary, and maybe you can see a little bit more player movement if you can have that negotiation in there between the players union and the owners to say, hey, let's split it up.
Real quick, on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, that Carson Wentz move, where would you rank that? 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. KB, I'm going to start with you. Bringing in a car. Wow, you're giving him
Carson Wentz is fine, and
you're giving him a little bit more credit. I mean, personally, with Phillip Rivers, what Phillip Rivers was able to do with that team, nobody saw that coming. Nobody. Well, I was happy that he went there. I felt like he had opportunity to do some things. I really don't believe that they had all the complete complement of players to really push this team deep into the playoffs, but I like what they did.
for me, when I give the I almost said Luck, what's his name? Wentz. Why I
Yeah.
gave that a 2 out of 10 is not because, of the player himself, in the sense that, like, Wentz is a good guy. But when you look at his time in Philadelphia, and let's compare it to what Darnold had to go through with the Jets. When I look at what happened there, Carson Wentz, he had a great year 4 years ago. And that's fantastic. Good for him. But he didn't even win the Super Bowl. He didn't even go on the playoff run. We don't know what he would look like in a high pressure situation. And we've only seen his play diminishly get worse and worse the past 3 seasons. Now, Darnold, on the other hand, granted, the capital, it's pretty much the same. And the nice thing for the Colts is they don't have to pay that much in salary, at least this season. However, there's a lot of pressure on Wentz. If Wentz doesn't work out, you pretty much shot your shot. You have a solid roster all the way around, but you don't have a Super Bowl caliber roster. And then you're going to throw in Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz could ruin what you have, thinking of like the 2019 Bucs team. I mean, you take out, you add in Gronk, you add in Brady, and you kind of see a gel and a cohesion. With Rivers, he's not physically what Carson Wentz is.
Right.
However,
he's on the way back end of his career.
Yeah, and what he did was he made the right decisions, and I think that's the biggest weakness in Carson Wentz's game is that decision making. I mean, we've seen it with Jameis. You can have the most talent in the world, but if you turn the ball over just as many times as you score touchdowns, you're in a negative.
Yep.
Overall.
Yeah, there you go. Plus, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would give it about a 5. I mean, that's me being nice. I'll go halfway, but from a Colts roster standpoint, I think they're very talented. They have a lot of good pieces. It's pretty much a complete roster. But when you look at the quarterback position, and obviously you're reuniting, Wentz with Frank Wright, which I think is a good thing. So I could see the upside, but it's just like, is Wentz going to be healthy? Is he going to, get back to that form? Again, they're going to have to do a lot of things where what they did in that, magical year that he had, where it's a lot of, 1 to 2 reads. It's, one side of the field. They do a lot of those things because that's where Wentz and you can even say Jameis is in the same boat. They struggle to get to their third read. And that's the problem with a lot of quarterbacks.
Right.
In the NFL, they just struggle to get to that third progression quickly.
Right.
So if you cut the field in half.
And you know what? I just want to jump in real quick.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I dislike Kansas City now, I love that about Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes naturally can work through his progressions when he needs to. I mean, we saw that with him. I know against Tampa, not so much against that defensive line.
Well, the first time he did.
Yeah. In the first quarter, and part of the second quarter.
Touché.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one thing that you saw from him consistently throughout the season was he was able to work through his progressions. I think like with a player like Jameis, with a player like Carson Wentz, there's a lot of emotion involved. And this is just me personally, what I see. You get so hyped up and you want to make that play. You want your team to win, but at the peril of your team, and it doesn't help the situation. So you would hope that players over the years would learn that. But I think after 4 years in the NFL, you have an idea. Your quarterback has an identity, and it's very rare. I would say Alex Smith may be that one off, but for the most part, when a quarterback plays the way he does consistently over 4 years, that's who he is. And going into a 5th year, that's who he is. And we saw some of that.
Same with Sam Darnold. That's what I was talking about. It's like, this guy is who he is. You see the traits, you see the tape. That's who that guy is. Now you can do things to help that quarterback play better if you manipulate the scheme and you cut the field in half. You do some things where you make it easy on him. You run a lot of RPO design offense where it's 1 to 2 reads. It's a high-low, kind of passing attack. That's where Wentz would be very successful, and he's shown success as in the past doing that. And he's going to have a good running game behind him, which is something that's really nice. He didn't really have that in Philadelphia.
Right.
He's got a great offensive line in front of him, so he will have time to throw the football, which is good. So yeah, I mean, I could see some upside. I definitely like that move better than the Sam Darnold move. I'll say that.
Yeah, most
Well, the
definitely.
Bucs will find out this year. They get to play the Colts for that 17th game in Indy, so we'll see. You know how early in the season that game is, but I'm curious to see how Wentz does overall, because when you think of like him and Jameis, a lot of, and this is something I made a mistake with Jameis, and I think Gene, you brought up a great point that years, it doesn't matter really what their age is. To me, it's that years of experience. They could be 25 with the 4 years of experience, but if they play 2 more years, I don't think they're going to change that much developmentally from 24 to 26 or 25 to 27. After year 4, it's kind of, they are who they are. So that's when, if I'm looking at the draft and I'm the Jets, for instance, I probably wouldn't have given away Sam Darnold, because I want, Zach Wilson to at least not have the pressure of having to play, or, Justin Fields, whoever that, quarterback may be, for
And
instance.
you're in New York, and it's New York, which they eat people alive.
And you said it's neck up. The New York media will eat you up if you don't play well. Like Daniel Jones, this is his last shot, and that's if you open up every New York newspaper or Twitter, I guess, because things are more digital these days. But like it's Daniel Jones' last shot.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't do well, coaching staff's gone. He's gone.
General
manager's gone. Like all of them know where they sit right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's why you're seeing them. I think they had the most movement. Well, I wouldn't say the most, but they had quite a bit of movement in the postseason as well, and off season as well, with a lot of moves that they've made. So,
but they're sexy though, and we found sexy. Even people would say, "Oh, the Tom Brady move last year was sexy." No, I don't know if people remember. 3/4 of the media hated it. They said Brady's gonna suck. Brady's gonna, get hit a lot. Brady's not gonna win. Yeah. Belichick's gonna win more, games in the season. That's what I heard.
Remoras.
So the Giants are making these sexy moves, but does it even put them at the top of the NFC East right now?
No, who would you guys say? I mean,
I like what Washington has done so far.
Yeah,
I love Washington's moves.
They're
but
sound.
To me, if the Cowboys make the right moves on defense,
right?
I think that it'd be theirs to lose. But I think Washington, you have to put them number 1, right? Yeah, because of the quarterback. Yeah. I mean, love Fitz, but we know Fitz isn't consistent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But now does that mean that maybe Washington tries to get somebody a quarterback as well, or well,
they paid Taylor Heineke too. He got paid off of the Bucs game. Essentially, he got a 2-year deal.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke, you're welcome. Just FYI on that.
Yeah. But who would have thought he would have outplayed Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers against the Bucs? Who would have thunk?
Just shows you how important Devin White is. I mean,
and how important QBs with legs are if they can stay healthy. That's the big caveat with QBs with legs.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see some of these young quarterbacks that are coming back off of injuries. I mean, Joe Burrow, and with the injury especially the injury that he had, how does he rebound from that? I mean, what is, I'm really curious about the landscape of the NFL this year. Because of the salary cap, there wasn't a lot of movement compared to what we've seen in years past. As far as free agency goes. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Buccaneers won hands down. They won free agency, and they won free agency last year. And, they turned around and rewarded the fan base with a Super Bowl, just based on the moves that they made. I mean, how many times can you say that you've seen a team bring in a starting wide receiver, then they bring in a starting edge rusher, then, you bring back all these different players that they brought back, a high quality kicker that made you forget the Bucs ever had a kicking game problem. I mean, just everything they did just along the board set them up to be successful moving forward. That's why it's going to be so exciting to watch and see what Tampa does with the draft.
For sure.
Yeah. So guys, Bless, I want to, because we're running low on time here. We're been on here 54 minutes. It's crazy. I wanted to ask you about, some of the recent streams that you've done, live streams. I love your work. I think you do a great job. Folks, Michael Pless at Real Bucks Talk on Twitter. You need to be getting ready to follow him for the draft. This guy is the cream of the crop when it comes to the draft, and how teams, not just the Bucs, but other teams are drafting moves they could potentially make. And it's really incredible to watch what they do and how they do it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean the draft is something I've been just enamored with since I was very young. Starting back in the early 2000s, and that's where I really got into just watching and covering the draft, and more in depth now because of the resources that we have available. But yeah, it's just it's a fun process. It's really interesting, especially this year, because you really don't know where exactly guys are going to be slotted according to teams, and who likes who, and that's where the surprise picks come in. You have a guy that, okay, maybe he could have been top 10, but now he's going in pick 25 or something along that nature. So yeah, it's just fun, and yeah, we're gonna try to push out as much content as we can. We got 3 weeks left, so we're gonna try to continue to push out more positions. We're gonna focus on the offensive line, which I think we only have Landon Dickerson. That's why I love him so much. He's our only guy out there, but yeah, definitely focus on the offensive line, more defensive line guys coming, some skill positions as well. So yeah, very very fun times right now, and yeah, just I'm excited. I wish it was tomorrow, but
Yeah, me too.
Again, we can't have that.
Was it 3 weeks? 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks from tomorrow. So yeah, it'll be here. It'll be here soon enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, I want to ask you, do you draft on the offense? If you're the GM, do you draft on the offensive or defensive side of the ball?
You look at just the way the team's set up, I would definitely emphasize defense. I think they want to get faster, and there's a lot of speed on defense available. They definitely want to beef up their special teams. So you could go either way. You could see receiver. I think receiver could be a very sneaky pick.
Yeah. Is
Especially
that a luxury pick though?
it could be. It could be considered a luxury pick because you like what Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson bring to the table. So maybe you wait on that, but I know they definitely want to improve their return game, and get better in that area. Find a guy that can really do everything. That's why I think they really like Demetric Felton, a guy that's a running back slash receiver and also a return man. That can bring some make you miss kind of ability.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went after like a Jalen Darden, late from North Texas. That guy's
somebody's got a little wiggle.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, again, they're such in a great spot, so they can really do whatever they want. And I tell all Bucs fans, just enjoy the show because it's really going to be a great show. And I think we'll dominate the draft again and really find some guys that we'll be talking about 3 years from now as potential stars.
Yep. KB, what do you think? Is it going to be offensive or defensive side of the ball?
I think it's going to be defensive, whether that be edge. Even a wild card could be like a defensive, linebacker, safety hybrid who can just be a playmaker.
Yeah.
Blanking on his name, the kid from Notre Dame. Just like any sort of player that they
JKO. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, get someone who can maybe, if we're going to play if everyone wants to make that argument for the contribution route on offense is like a running back, I think a player like that on defense could add some value, whether that be slot corner, third safety.
Yeah.
I think Todd Bowles, when he did play three safeties, I think the Bucs did a really good job. We didn't do it probably enough. And then we had some injuries, in the end of the year and playoffs that, kind of prevented that a little bit. But, I think there's so many possibilities you can go. If they drafted Landon Dickerson, wouldn't be upset. Even if they drafted Najee Harris, I wouldn't be upset. Like there's so many different ways that they can go that can really, just make this roster solid. As long as they have a plan for after this season, I don't think any year you can just go completely all in. I mean, we've seen with the Saints, you can only do that so many times.
Yeah.
So I think you have to play for the now, but I think you also need to play for the 2-3 year picture.
Yeah.
Just in general, whether that's with Brady still here, whether that's, picking up an Aaron Rodgers, or if that's even picking up, you hate to say it, like an Andy Dalton, Ryan Tannehill, someone who'd be available in like 2-3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like someone, if you have the roster around them. So if you keep building and building to replenish the roster so you don't lose too much, then no matter who you put in quarterback, Brady didn't play like he did 10 years ago for us.
Right.
Yeah.
He threw 3 interceptions in the NFC Championship game on 3 consecutive downs.
Yeah, but
Like,
but ultimately that team was destined to win that game.
That's where I think it was Pewterport who really said that, was like, hey, if I'm not going to pick them to beat the Saints, but if they beat the Saints, I'm not picking them to lose another game. It's kind of like the Eagles from 2002. Like, once they won that game, it was like they can't lose. Like, they can't lose the Super Bowl.
It didn't matter who you put in front of them. That's kind of how I am.
Exactly. And I think the Saints still probably were the best team in the postseason, granted with Drew Brees and his flaws. And we've seen that roster get really cut down. Yeah. So no matter where we go in the draft, I just wish someone would have told me covering the draft 10 years ago would be cool. Like, like 10 years ago when YouTube was like barely a thing. And like now we have all of these shows. We have, for Bucs content alone, I can just rattle off 10 or 12, fantastic, including this one, of course. But
I got to get out there and try to see how many Bucs podcasts there are.
There's probably enough to keep you occupied enough to never watch NFL Network or ESPN ever again.
That's where I'm at right now. I have not. I don't watch ESPN. I don't watch NFL Network. I tend to stay local. I tend to real Bucs talk. These are you guys are talking about players that NFL Network is not talking about, and the only reason I know this is because they come across my TL. Yeah, there you go. Shout out to Mr. Bucs Nation, my guy.
Another content creator on YouTube.
Guys,
why don't you help fill my point for me? I mean, like, for example, like, I'm a very busy guy. I work in sales. I don't watch ESPN. I don't have time for that anymore. So if I'm ever working out, I'm listening to a podcast. Like, if I'm not able to go to Real Bucs Talk and be on their live, I'm listening it the next morning or the next day, next night.
It's on the rotation. I mean, that's just where it stays. But for me, it's going to be the trenches. And I've said this, I'm going to continue to say that. I mean, the teams that continually address the trenches and stay aggressive in that position are the ones that generally do well. With the exception, like I said, Kansas City was that outlier team. But if you look back, you can go back a decade. The teams that have won have been dominant on both sides of the ball in the trenches, and that's where it's at. And I can't stress that enough. I think that Tampa will go that direction this year. You will see at least somebody, maybe on both sides. We don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I cannot wait to see what Real Bucs Talk does as far as the later parts of the draft, to kind of see what gems are out there that the Bucs could kind of bring in and help this team be successful. I'm looking forward to it. Again, like you, Pless. Like you, KB, I'm enjoying the ride. I'm not going to argue with anybody about what player the Bucs need to get or they don't need to get. I'm enjoying this because you know what? They've got the roster set up right now. The table's set, and we just go in here and get some other players, some younger players that will add a little bit of longevity to this team and in years to come, and that's what you want. But guys, that's pretty much it for me. That's what I had for tonight. Plus, I want to get your last thoughts, and then KB, I'll get yours, and we'll roll up out of here.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It's always a pleasure talking football. So, man, I'm just, my final thoughts. I'm very excited for the upcoming weeks to come. I think we're going to see a lot of, very interesting stuff. The NFL is like probably the best drama out there. I mean, it's always giving you something, to talk about, whether it be, whatever, your favorite team or another team. So yeah, just looking forward to that, the process as we get closer, hearing, all sorts of crazy rumors that are going to go down. So be sure that, if you're on social media, make sure they have a check mark. Cause there is it's fake account time, fake account season pretty much. So, but other than that, just enjoy the process. This is going to be a very fun ride. This whole off season, I think, is going to be awesome. So with that being said, like Gene and Ken said, you can follow me at Real Bucs Talk on all social media platforms. Also check out my YouTube channel, Real Bucs Talk. It's very easy to find. Appreciate the subscriptions if you guys can do that if you haven't already. It really helps the channel. And we got more great content coming very soon. Actually, tomorrow we're going to have a new video on running back. A running back, but
Michael Carter. Michael Carter.
Not Michael Carter. This is actually a day 3 prospect that could be a potential.
Because I know you just did
steal.
Felton recently.
Yeah, so it's another day 3 guy that could be a steal. His initials start with a K. So
have you said it in this episode? So if I were to roll back, did you say it at any point? Because we talked running backs.
I didn't say his name. So
Okay.
So be on the lookout, everyone.
Right. And we'll have, more content coming out after that as well this weekend. So really good stuff.
All right. KB.
Yeah, man. Draft's coming up, and I'm not sure if I'm going to see Pless until then. But if I don't see Pless, if you all, you don't want to, whenever the Bucs make their picks, people like Pless, they're going to get content out with, the different, YouTube cut up of these players. So you don't have to do all be a loser like me and just find everything you can find on YouTube and Google to find any sort of film on these people. I wish college had a way of condensing film for people to have an easy access.
They used to. I don't know what happened to it, but there was a way that you could get certain players.
There is, but it's in the black market, so you have to.
Yep.
You
have to know people who know people who know people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, when it's draft season, you don't have to. If you're a fan, you don't really care who the Bucs pick until Thursday, April 28th, or whatever the night is. Relax. Just kick your feet up. When you wake up Friday morning, you can click anywhere, and we're all going to be talking about it.
That's
Heck,
right.
I might even be on a live show with Gene.
Yeah.
Real Bucks Talk might have a live show Friday night. Everyone's going to have something for you.
Yeah.
So take PTO on Friday and relax. 'Cause I'm taking PTO. I ain't working.
This is a holiday. Just call it a holiday. That's what
I take Thursday, Friday every year. So
see, I can't take Thursday this year, but normally I take Thursday, Friday. But the nice thing about working Thursday is you're not thinking about it all day.
That's true. That is
every
true.
day. But you must watch draft night or draft day, before every single draft for good luck, no matter what your fan base is.
There you go.
It's good luck.
I don't know why it's in Cleveland, but that's for another show.
Well, the draft's in Cleveland this year, so it makes sense to watch it.
Even more so. You're proving my point more or less. keep talking because you're just backing me up.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody that's been in the chat, that's been coming through and making comments. Even people that have different team affiliations. I appreciate you guys as well. Ramona and your Miami Dolphins. Good luck to them. Now that Brady's gone, you guys have a chance to really do some things. So good luck to you guys. For me, I'm looking forward to this. I want to get this over with so we can see what players we have. We were deprived of OTAs. We were deprived of mini camps. We were deprived of regular camp. And we went from a team that only had the first 4 games of the regular season were your preseason games. And they came back, they rebounded from that, and were able to win a Super Bowl. Says a lot about the integrity of this team. I think it's going to be really exciting for fans to get to see some of these players now that they'll get a chance to be in camp. There are going to be players that you didn't really hear about that are going to really shine this year. BucWhatYaHeard is one of those players. I'm going to go on record saying that he's going to have a monster year this year if he can stay healthy. He's one of those guys that's been my what if guy. If he was able to 100% stay healthy, just what he's capable of doing, because we've seen so many times where BucWhatYaHeard gets rolling and then he gets injured. And then you're like, man, what if he had made it all the way through? So I've got my fingers crossed that this guy is going to have a monster year, just so he can show what he's capable of doing. And I'm really looking forward to it. But guys, I want to give a shout out to Bucs Report. Thank you, Bucs Report, for doing what you do, giving us the opportunity to do this, have this platform to do what we do. I also want to thank Smack Apparel. My guys at Smack Apparel are nothing but amazing.
Robbie.
My guy, Robbie, we will be getting a discount code for you guys if you want to get some of these T-shirts, the Smack Apparel T-shirts, for instance, the Beat Down in the Bay shirt and some of the other T-shirts that are out there.
Can I speak of T-shirts for a second? Can we get BA to use that shirt in his next press conference? Because I mean, BA would look pretty, good in it. But you're looking good tonight, Gene.
Oh yeah, this is my I'm ready to go on vacation shirt.
Yeah, give me that shirt, and I want to go to Hawaii just wearing that everywhere.
There you go. Man, so guys, again, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. I know you guys have so much more to do this evening. And again, Pless, if I can get you on again before draft, I would love to do that, man. You're a wealth of knowledge. KB, thank you for bringing it as always. You guys are the best. And we're going to go ahead and get out of here.